The presidential election is 2 weeks from today. We have NKU political science professor Dr. Ryan Salzman here to break down what to expect in the final days. Good morning, and what a ride.
What a ride.
Here we are. So Monday, CNN and ORC came out with a poll that said Clinton was up by 5 points. In the last few days, we've seen a lot of polls that showed that and even twice those numbers. So are these accurate? Or are we seeing something like we experienced in the primaries where no one said they were going to vote for Donald Trump and then they did?
Right. Well, even in the primaries, it's worth noting that Donald Trump was the leader in most of those polls. He likes to talk down the polls. He used to love the polls. Now he hates the polls. But that's kind of Donald Trump for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one thing that's important to bear in mind with polling, and for everybody at home to bear in mind, is that you have these margins of error. You have these confidence intervals, which means that if it's a 5-point lead, it's actually a 5-point lead plus or minus 3.5 points, which means it could be a 1-point lead or it could be a 9-point lead. So what we can do is we can aggregate the polls. That is, we start to add them up. And as we get closer to the election, our degree of uncertainty starts to get smaller. And so as we're getting closer to this election, as we're adding up polling, we're able to start to be more confident about what the polls are saying. And everybody seems to think the polls are saying Hillary has a 6 or 7-point lead. And I feel fairly confident that that is the case as we sit here 2 weeks out.
Okay, so what does a Trump win look like? What does a Hillary Clinton victory look like?
Well, I think that on election night and even on the polling as we approach the election, we need to start looking at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the state that I really like in the sense for 2 reasons. One, it's a state that Trump has to have. He has to have Pennsylvania. If he does well in Pennsylvania, he's got a chance in other states that are important to him. Another reason that we should look at Pennsylvania is just logistically, their results will come in early. I would say look at Nevada, but then we would have to wait until 11 o'clock at night in order to start getting our results. So Pennsylvania, those results will start coming in. So if Trump is going to win, he's going to do well in Pennsylvania. We're going to see North Carolina follow along with it. And then Florida, the large population states, will probably come online with him. So that's probably what we're going to have to see. If the evening begins and they call Pennsylvania within an hour, I don't want to say it's over for Trump, but it's probably over for Trump.
Okay, some good insight there. Any last-minute bombs expected? And by bombs, I mean knowledge bombs, like the situation with Donald Trump on the bus.
Right. I don't know what those would be, and I don't know what their effect would be within this window. We know that millions of people are going to have already voted by the time that the election comes. They probably already have voted, whether by absentee or early voting. So those numbers are in. Those numbers are locked in. So if the information was about Hillary and you already voted for Hillary, you can't go back and say, I'm going to change my vote. So there's a question logistically for the election as to what extent it would matter for the outcome. We also just have to wonder what information could come out. We've had terrorist attacks. We've had email leaks. We've had tapes about Donald Trump. We've had accusers come out. We've had misstatements by both candidates. So I think it's fairly safe to say that the numbers are pretty set moving forward. I don't want to go out and say that nothing could happen.
Right.
I just can't imagine what that would be.
Well, Hillary Clinton has been stumping for some Democratic candidates for Senate recently, so we've talked very little about some of the Senate races because of the presidential race being so huge. What's that about, and what is the expectation as far as some of those races?
The significance of the Senate race is probably as significant as the presidential race. If the Democrats take control of the Senate, which right now the odds give them maybe a 50-50 or better than 50-50 chance of doing, then that changes Hillary Clinton's ability to govern or Donald Trump's ability to govern precipitously. And right now, we're looking at states like Pennsylvania, states like Illinois, states like Ohio, states like New Hampshire that are all in very competitive rates, although Ohio not as much, interestingly. And those could make the difference. So that's another thing for us to pay attention to. Hillary seems to have dismissed Trump. She's kind of going into the mode of ignoring him and starting to focus on down ballot. And we're seeing evidence that Republicans are doing the same thing as well.
Ryan Salzman with NKU. We will continue to talk to him up until the election and election night. We'll see you soon. Thanks.
Thanks.
Dan?